Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven. I'm your host. Joining me today is my co-host Alex and a very special guest, Mr. Matt Overton, the long snapper for the Chargers. Happy to have him on. And Matt, thanks for taking the time to join us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be on here.
Yeah, we are super stoked to have you. This is the third week in a row that we've had a Chargers player on. So this is really fun for us, but I want to get your thoughts because I don't think anybody has really asked you about this in terms of your return to football this year, at least from what I've seen, because the Chargers had two long snappers in training camp. They cut one, the other one gets injured. So were you preparing to come out of retirement, or what was that conversation like as you were preparing to join the Chargers?
I mean, I was neve really retired. I
Okay.
just was a free agent on the street, man, trying to get back on a team. And all of 2019, sat out the entire season. I was in training camp and preseason with the Jaguars and got released right before the season started. So all of 2019 sat out, and that's when I had my little stint with the Chargers. Like I told you earlier, I had my cup of coffee with the team. They signed me the Mexico City game.
Okay.
It was for kind of precautionary reasons. Cole Mazza, the snapper, had elevation sickness, and so they weren't sure if he was able to go or not. But fortunately enough, he was able to. But I got a free trip to Mexico City and got to hang with the team for a few days. And as soon as the game was over, I was sent home. So that was my little stint with the team, and a couple familiar faces from that year. Badgley and Ty and a couple of those guys. But I really literally sat out the entire season of 2019, and so going on into 2020 was a little bit of an unknown for me. And fortunately, I mean, the blessing in disguise for the COVID season was that they were able to sign veteran players to practice squads. And so for me, I was never practice squad eligible because I had more than 2 years of credited seasons and all that kind of stuff. So with the COVID rules and restrictions, they, expanded those rosters and opened it for, older guys. And fortunately I was picked up by the Titans and got to stay home for that season, and, ended up being elevated like week 6, I think, and then played the whole year. So in 2020, played with the Titans and had a great year, and made it to the playoffs, won the AFC South that year, and became a free agent again in 2021. So my time preparing was a little bit longer than I'd hoped. I was preparing to re-sign with the Titans, but it didn't go that way. A tough business, and they found their guy and Morgan Cox, who's a 4 or 5 time Pro Bowl player, so they signed him that year, and then I just kind of waited. I know I've essentially been a street free agent now for like 5 years in a row.
Okay.
So I kind of know kind of how it goes. A lot of teams sign young guys early on. They want to evaluate those guys. And then I'm one injury away, unfortunately, one injury away from getting signed. And so, Cole gets banged up in a preseason game. They got a rookie snapper, Ryan Langan, on his team. And, I have experience with Tom Telesco. He and I were in Indy together when I was a rookie back in 2012 before he got the GM job and with the Chargers. And so, it was just kind of crossing paths again with Tom. He brought me in, and long story short, made the team this past year and was a Charger, man. So it's kind of how this whole thing goes. And it's been kind of a crazy roller coaster of a journey this past 5 years. And, it's been fun though, because it's the unknown's kind of exciting, and fortunately enough landed with a great team. And I'm from the Bay Area, so being back in my home state, California, was great. And always grew up watching the Chargers, and got to be fun of a really great team and organization. And we had fell short, but it was still a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with that because you mentioned the cup of coffee stint with the Chargers this year. You play all 16 or 17 games. Still weird to me. But what'd you make of that, full season stint? I know you tweeted out that you were really proud of playing the whole season this year. What was your experience like with the Chargers this year?
It was tremendous, man. And like you just kind of alluded to, yeah, I was with the Colts from 2012 through 2016. So 5 straight years of playing full season, staying healthy. And then 2017, I was with the Jaguars. And then I got hurt and put on IR week 9. So I sat out the rest of that year, and the following year recovered from rehab. And then I got re-signed to the Jaguars, like again, midway through the season. And then I get sat out all of 2019 and then played about 3/4 of 2020 with the Titans. So this year is an incredible feat for me personally, just because I battled through some adversity and latched on with teams a little bit later in the year. And so being with the team from the get-go, I know I missed out on OTAs and really missed out on most of training camp, but being with the team the entire year was great because it finally felt good to be with a team from the get-go, and to be in it with guys and get familiar with guys and teammates and coaches before the season started, because this is the first team that I'd been on where I hadn't played with anybody on the team. I hadn't been coached by anybody.
Okay.
The NFL is such a small little fraternity that you cross paths. I mean, fortunately for me, will be going on to my 11th year, so chances are I've crossed paths. I mean, I've crossed paths with Tom Telesco, but outside of him, I didn't really know anybody. And so it was nice to have those like 2 or 3 weeks leading into the week 1 to get acclimated a little bit and just kind of get familiar with names and all that kind of stuff. And so I walked in being the old guy on the team, and so it was quite the honor to have that badge to wear around. But it's fun being kind of that older mentor type guy in the locker room, and this year was incredibly fun, and it exceeded my expectations as far as what kind of team the Chargers were and what kind of identity was going to be created, because I know it's fairly new. It's a new city, new stadium, new face of the franchise with Herbert, new head coach, new coaches. So a lot of kind of the new era, new foundation being set for the organization and for the team. And so being right there at the ground level, that was great. And man, the future is bright for this team. And I really am hopeful to be back.
Is there a way that you or coaches around the league like to evaluate long snapper play? Because I feel like with punters and kickers, we have these numbers and you have air yards and field goal percentage, but I feel like there's not a lot of people who probably watch long snapper film or are familiar with how to do that. So how do you yourself kind of evaluate, your performance or the performance of other guys around the league as a long snapper?
Yeah, I mean, so really like when the season gets going, I mean, there's probably less than 5 guys on the street that are veteran long snappers. So it's not like you have this huge pool to pull from if somebody gets hurt or there's some issues with performance. And so for me, I always know that like, hey man, if I just stay in shape and stay ready, that phone call is going to come at some point, whether it's an injury or COVID or somebody's just not playing that well. So been in this ride now as a street free agent, for like 5 years now. So I kind of understand how it goes. You just have to be patient. But when it comes to like evaluating, it's really Coach Swinton, our head special teams coordinator. He had, again, like I said, it's a small fraternity. So he coached with some of my former coaches. So it's kind of like they're familiar.
There's some overlap somewhere.
Right.
My familiarity with his scheme is where I get from my previous coaches that he coached under. So it's kind of like that. Hey, what do you think about Matt? Oh, he's great. Is he healthy? Good. Let's bring him in, kind of thing. And there's, like I said, there's a small pool of us guys. I know there's a lot of more younger guys, but when it comes to like the season, teams are a little more reluctant to bring in a rookie guy. They'd rather have somebody that has some experience, whether it's 2 years or 10 years. So coaches kind of favor the veteran in that case. Like I said, fortunately for me, unfortunately Cole got hurt. Great young long snapper who belongs in this league for a long time, and once he's healthy and ready to go, I'm sure he'll be back. And so I just was there just to fill in the shoes, man, and do the best that I could, and be a veteran leader. that, they asked me to be, and try to do my best. And I thought we had a lot of fun. I know we had highs and lows on special teams this year, but ended on a high note. And, just excited to see where this young group of guys can take this team, because we know the quarterback position is at an elite level. We know the skill positions, and the guys on the defense side of the ball with DJ and Bosa and those guys. And special teams wise, I mean, there's a lot. Like, the ceiling's high, and we have high expectations now because of the fact that we ended on a pretty good note. And we have a lot of young guys that are now, going to be taking over some of those spots as, the core guys. And I know without a doubt that, Telesco and Staley, those coaches hold, that unit to a high expectation. And we have to meet those this year going into 2022. And so, I'm excited to see, where this, team goes in regards to that phase. And I know D-Hop and Ty and myself were all, free agents this offseason. So see what happens. And I hope the three of us are back. I know all three of us want to be back. But, it's business is business. And I'll be 37. So, they'll probably look for the next David Ben or whatever you want to, they're going to be looking for somebody that can play, the position for a long time. But, I'm staying ready for the opportunity and staying in great shape and healthy. And I am hopeful to be back with the Chargers.
Well, man, it's about the mileage, not the age. So you might be 37, but
yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm not 37 yet, but I will be once the ball kicks off in the season,
Gotcha. So I want to get your thoughts because, you're alluding to, the specialists, if you will, at the end of the season, we're all veteran players. Of course, Andre Roberts, yourself, Ty Long, Dustin Hopkins, and really outside of Ty heading into the season, there was a lot of like uncertainty amongst the fans of like, this young group. And Michael Badgley, of course, was heading into the season too with competition with Tristan, but there was a lot of just uncertainty, around who was going to be a core special teamer. What was this going to look like? Then, of course, they decided to roll with Tristan. KJ Hill, Larry Roundtree were returning kicks. And then, you come along, and then midseason they bring in Dustin and Andre. And what was that transition like for you guys? I mean, you're a veteran player, but when you're talking to these young players and, they have to go from, blocking for KJ Hill as opposed to Andre Roberts and, watching Tristan kick as opposed to Dustin Hopkins, what is that transition like for a young player, do you think?
I mean, it's a big transition. I mean, a lot of these guys outside of, kicking, punting, and long snapping, most of these guys, and even returning, like a lot of these guys never really did it in college. They're the star running back, they're the star receiver, they're the star linebacker, and they're not playing in that phase, because the college roster has got 100+ guys and they can find whoever to fill in. And so when you have 53 and only 46 or 47 dressed, it's like, you have to have a core of like 5 to 8 guys that are playing in all phases of special teams. And, when KJ was back there and then Roundtree was back there, I mean, those are young guys with not a lot of experience. And it's not as easy as catching the ball and just finding the hole and going. There's a reason why Andre Roberts has been to the Pro Bowl like 6 times. He is a special list in the fact that he only returns. And there's not a lot of guys like him that have the vision, have the patience, they understand leverage, they understand, where to find that seam. And it's just, it's a feel that I think, I don't know, Andre would tell you, but it's probably just a feel that he has gained over the course of his 12-year career, that he can't teach to Larry or he can't teach to KJ and these young guys. And I think early on in the season, like we're just plug and play, like who's going to be our returner this year? Who we're going to give a chance to. And it's not that they're not good players. It's just, they just don't have the experience. And then on top of it, you have a bunch of young guys blocking for them who have never done it. And so you're talking about Nick Neiman, Amon, Chris Rump. I mean, the list goes on of how young we were across the board. And even like, Drew Tranquil, who is in my mind a veteran, but he's only really played a full season because he was out all last year. So, putting the reins on Drew as being that leader, but then he was playing a lot of defense. So it's like, where do you kind of draw the line for Drew? Because he's balling on defense. We need him healthy. But he was a key, attribute to our special teams because he's a baller. So I think early on, like the first like 6 or 7 weeks, we're just like really trying to find, the guys that we needed to play certain positions. And unfortunately, we struggled. And it's kind of not almost expected sometimes. I mean, it's a tough transition, and there's no OTAs anymore, and it's the on-field prep has changed a lot, since I've started playing. And especially if they continue to keep OTAs kind of at, a limited number of days you can get with the team and all kinds of stuff. And I know the veteran guys love it because they can stay home longer and stuff like that. But for the young guys who are learning and trying to make a team, it really is detrimental to their progress. So really in training camp, they have that 3 to 4 weeks before the season goes to like really figure it out. But with that being said, I mean, going into this next year with those guys I just mentioned, I mean, they're going to be key attributes to, special teams. I know Chris Rump is, preparing to be an edge rusher, and, that's the ceiling's high for that kid. Nick Neiman, freaking stud, should have been in the Pro Bowl. And then, hopefully a guy like Andre Roberts is back, because it only elevates your team. It only creates more of an edge when you're playing against other teams, because teams know like, hey, keep the ball out of Andre Roberts' hands, because he proved that when he touches the ball, he makes an impact. And then you talk about Tristan, a young kicker, just learning his way. The kid has got some of the most incredible leg power I've ever seen. And I played with Vinatieri. I played with Josh Lambo, all pro kickers, and he's got the ability to do it. But again, he's a rookie. He's finding his way through, and so I think he's going to continue to grow this year as well. But like I said, if you can keep these guys together for the next, 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I mean, the special teams play is just going to be elevated, because now they're going to have a lot more experience. They're going to understand how to protect, how to block, how to run down field, how to make plays. And then, you get excited, when we were making big plays, the return to the house against Denver, even the opening kickoff against Kansas City, where it's, we just a shoelace away from taking it. I mean, that those plays bring so much momentum to the team. And then guys, when they start seeing themselves make those types of plays, whether it's a big block or a big tackle, like now they're like, all right, this is why I want to be on special teams. It's like guys buying into it, whereas before there was like, man, I want to be a starter on defense or offense. But a lot of veterans will tell you, man, you make your name on special teams first before you make the move up. And, if you're not that first round draft pick, if you're an undrafted free agent, man, the best way to make the team is be on special teams. So you better be coming ready to learn and be a productive player on those units.
I wanted to talk about Darius Swinton because you mentioned him as the special teams coordinator this year. Fortunately, won't be back next year with the team. So I kind of wanted to know, now the Chargers are going to be on their third special teams coordinator in that 3-year period. Do you think that that's going to be hard to adapt to another system? Or do you think because you guys found Andre and found Dustin later in the year that there will sort of be that familiarity and you guys will kind of pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I mean, Swinton was a great coach. I really enjoyed playing with him. He's been in this league for a long time. Coach Mayer as well, the assistant. Really loved playing for him. Schematically, pretty similar to a lot of teams that I've been a part of. Again, it's not too different. It's not as, crazy as a transition from a new offensive coordinator to another or defensive coordinator. We're not like reinventing the wheel here. Really, the NFL is a copycat league. And so when one coach comes, it kind of falls off that tree of another coach, and it's very, very similar on kind of the schemes and techniques that they bring over. So I don't expect there to be a huge learning curve with that going into this offseason. But yes, it'll definitely help having, a great mix of veteran guys with the young guys to continue to build off of last year. And I don't think they've announced who the new coordinator would be, but I expect them to bring a great guy in that's going to be a great coach for this phase. And I'm sure guys are excited to get to work with them.
Yeah, we're all waiting to see who they decide to hire there. The coaching hiring period in general around the league has been much slower this year than usual, which I think is generally a good thing. Unfortunately, we've got some discriminatory practices going on, according to Brian Flores, which is So unfortunate to see. But I want to ask you a question because someone pointed this out to me that Coach Michael Wilhoit actually used to coach special teams in New Orleans. So I'm just kind of curious here. Was he active on special teams with you guys here in Los Angeles, or was he strictly linebackers coach only?
He was linebackers coach only. So Will Hoyt and I, man, we played in the UFL together. So
No kidding.
yeah. And so he's one of those guys, man. Came from a Division II school, maybe an undersized linebacker, undrafted free agent, went to the UFL for a couple years, and then finally got signed. I think he went to the Niners first and then played the Seahawks. But anyway, he's a perfect example of a guy that bought into special teams, and he carved out an 8-9 year career in the NFL because he was that guy that make plays on special teams, and then he got to start on defense when guys went down or whatnot. So he's a perfect example of why playing special teams and at a high level is so important, because it gives you an opportunity to make a team, and it gives you an opportunity to stick around in the league for a much longer time. And so he was really, really good at helping guys with like footwork and technique and leverage and tackling drills. I mean, he didn't get too involved as much as maybe some of the guys would have liked. I think he's a great coach. He's very relatable because he's still young. He's not very far removed from the game.
Yeah.
And when you have a coach as a former player, there's something to be said about that. I mean, there's a kind of a trust level that just kind of elevates, because you know that coach knows what you're going through mentally and physically and emotionally. And he's been there and done that. So when he can reference tape and reference certain techniques, like, of course I'm going to trust him, because he just showed us him doing it, against the Seahawks, and
Right.
So, I mean, that's interesting, man. I don't know what Will Hoyt's got going on. I know he wants to be a linebackers coach, but man, if he was promoted to the coordinator of special teams, man, I think, man, I never really thought of that, whether they're going to make a move internally, but gosh dang, he would be one heck of a special teams coach, man.
Well, there we go. That is so funny, man. Did not, think that was coming at all. We got a connection from the UFL on record.
Yeah. Omaha Nighthawks, man. Look them up.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to ask, kind of building on that, right? If you have someone like Michael Wilhoit, then, on special teams, he gets to continue to work with Drew Tranquil, and gets to continue to work with Nick Diebit if he's the special teams coordinator. So he has a little bit of that built-in knowledge there as well. I guess my final question is just how do you kind of, I know you have Stay Ready on your hat and it's a huge part of your brand. How does that kind of mentally feel in the NFL? I know you talked about sort of being a veteran and being someone who's a free agent, on the street sometimes. What's the mental challenge, I guess, to overcome with that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of been my little personal motto now for, ever since when I was released in Indy in early of 2017, and that kind of sideswiped me, caught me off guard, and that's kind of when I again, to go back even further, it took me 6 years to make my first NFL team out of college. So that between college and in my time in Indy, played in the UFO for 3 years, played the Arena League, bounced around to these little community. I mean, I was all over the place. I was a tumbleweed, just going wherever I could play. And that's where my journey crossed with Will Hoyt in the UFL in Omaha, Nebraska, playing for the Nighthawks. But when in 2017, when I became that free agent again, and the phone wasn't calling to get picked up, man, I just was like, man, I just have to stay ready in the moment. I have to stay ready in my preparation, my routine. I got to stay in shape, because I do know that call comes at any moment. And the last thing I ever want to feel when that call comes is like, I'm not prepared. And so it was a daily mindset going in to, even though it was long, and some days I felt like giving up and not wanting to go work out. And then, when it gets later in the year, now, training camp has started or preseason started, the calls still haven't come. You get discouraged, man. It's easy to get discouraged because guys are playing, and why aren't I getting an opportunity? But that call comes at the most unexpected time. And that's been the case for me every single time I've been called. I mean, the Jaguars literally were the last team that I ever wanted to go play for. And for whatever reason, whatever reason, man, God took me there, man. He opened that door for me, and it turned out to be an incredible experience in my life. I loved playing in Jacksonville, and that was the year we went to the AFC Championship. So there were so many great things that happened, when literally that was the last team I told my agent I do not want to go to Jacksonville, and I ended up there for 2.5 years, and had a lot of fun there. And then this past year with the Chargers, man, I was in bed one afternoon watching a preseason game, and my agent calls and said, "Hey, you want to go to LA?" I'm like, "Let's go." And so just being, staying ready. And it's a motto that not only that I hold personally, but through my faith and just perseverance in his training. But it's a message that ties to my testimony that I like to share with younger guys, because, these young rookies that just don't know what they don't know. And, they played in the SEC and they played at the highest level in college. And then they get to the NFL and realize, like, dang, I'm the low man on the totem pole now, and guys are getting cut. And, the NFL, the acronym, not for long. It's true. There's guys that literally walk into an NFL building and they last, only a couple days, and some never play again. And then some just have to keep on going and team to team. And it takes, 6 to 8 teams to finally crack it and stick. And there's so many guys that have that same story. It's not the glory, get drafted and, you start right away. And so I like to share that message with all the guys, because, even though I'm older, I came into the league, my rookie year, I was 27. And so I'm carrying, the ball bag when my punter was already 3 years in the league, but he's 4 years younger than I am, so it's like, but I'm the rookie because I've never, I was 27, so I like to just share that story, and it's just a cool motto. It's a daily reminder for me, like, to never be complacent, never be content, and just keep striving and pushing, man. And my goal is to play till I'm 40, man. So I'm playing until I literally physically can't do it, to where I know I need to be, and I have no more passion and energy for it. I love the game so much, and I want to be a champion, man, and I want to help contribute and help a team win.
Well, I think I speak for most Chargers fans when I hope you play until you're 40 on the Chargers. My last question here, you mentioned the Colts punter. I have to ask you about Pat McAfee, because he's become such a large media personality for the brand. Yes, let's go. Give me your favorite Pat McAfee story, whether it be, as a player or afterwards. What's kind of your relationship now with Pat McAfee?
I mean, there's really too many stories to share. And I guess the story I'll share is, today is the 5-year anniversary that he abruptly retired from the NFL.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize it until I saw it on Twitter and people were tweeting me, and because I posted a picture of me standing on a corner in East Nashville with the "I Love Pat" shirt on, with a little cardboard sign saying I just lost my punter. I need hugs or whatever it said. Just the time I had with him was incredible. Obviously a great player, one of the best to ever do it. He left as an All-Pro, left as a Pro Bowl punter that year. Arguably one of the best punters to ever play. And he was such a young guy when he left. He left at his prime, and got to play with Vinatieri too. So those two, for me, have been incredible mentors and leaders in my life, and just, great guys that I looked up to. And it's no surprise that Pat's, excelling at what he loves doing. Just the content he's always created. This is nothing new. This is stuff he's been doing for 10, 12 years. He's super creative. He's ahead of his time. And he's the persona that he portrays online and on a show is kind of what I experienced quite a bit. But there were also times where, he's super competitive. He knows when to work hard, and one of the hardest workers I've been around. Just a genuine guy, and we had a lot of fun, man. There was never a dull moment. Vinatieri's the same way. When it's time to work, it's time to work. But when there's time to have a little fun, there's a lot of fun to go around. And just my memories with them are incredible. There's a lot I just can't pinpoint, but with it being the anniversary, just reflect on that time where I woke up. I kind of knew he was going to do it, but I never quite believed him until he did it. This had been kind of months that we kind of had an idea that he was thinking about doing it. And we always, I mean, kind of always called his bluff, dude. It's like, dude, you're not going to do it. I mean, I know you're creative and you have a great thing waiting for you, but, you know, why leave now? You know, was kind of the thing. And so I think with just the things he endured with some injuries and just the perfect storm with like Barstool and him to be able to kind of brand himself outside of football and do, I mean, he genuinely loves doing what he's doing. That's the joy that he's always envisioned. And, you know, I think, you know, for a lot of guys, you know, football doesn't bring that joy that it once did. And he decided to go out at the top of his game, and something to respect about that. And now he's proven everyone wrong, because when he retired, man, people called him crazy, you know, and a lot of people did. And I never once thought he was crazy for doing it, because I knew the kind of talent he had. But man, he elevated my game. I mean, there's still things that the stories that I share with young guys like Ty. Ty asked about, you know, about Pat a lot, and Tristan and D Hop ask about Vinatieri, and how do they train, how do they approach the game, practice, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I love to be able to share that, because I got to see firsthand for 5 years how those guys carry themselves day in and day out, and why Vinny's a first ballot Hall of Fame, and you could argue that for the punting position that Pat could be one, if they ever start inducting those guys, so man, I could ramble on and about both of them, but man, my time with them been great, and I love seeing Pat just do what he loves to do and entertain the world, man.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that football is better because of what he did. And it's funny, you mentioned playing until 40. Of course, Vinatieri played until 42, right?
No, I think 46, maybe.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I lowballed that one.
Looks good for his age.
He's been gone. He's been out of the league now for 2 years. I think it's at least 45, or somewhere, because he's 12 years older than I am. So he's been out. Yeah, so it's probably 46, maybe, I think. So wow. Yeah. And then 22 years, and he came in a little bit later because he played in the NFL Europe. So yeah, if my math is correct, 47. I don't know. So if he came in at 25, we'll have to Wikipedia that.
Yeah, and then of course Pat and his career there. Just funny those dynamics. But Matt, can't thank you enough for your time today. You've been very generous with us, and wish you nothing but the best. I know you're training with some young long snappers that I look forward to seeing some content there. But wish you nothing but the best, and again, hope you are able to re-sign with the team this year.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Bolt up.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
See you guys.